Well, there are a couple of insights into app stores. First, I think app store is a very abstract name, right? Really, traditionally, what you mean when saying app store, you really mean a collection of applications. And one path which we have chosen is we don't necessarily want to compete head-to-head. So there are many aspects in the app stores that we don't have to do ourselves being an app store. That means, for example, hosting files. Right. In fact, right now we support all Google Play catalog, and we work with applications that not necessarily have to be hosted with us. And the strength of our business model is really the discovery and the monetization. And these are two aspects that are simply done differently in our app stores. So what I'm trying to say is that although the terms that companies describe themselves sound similar, like, their app store, we're app store, how can we coexist? But in reality, if you look at the app store, it's just like in the web. It's a very complex definition, and there are many layers. And we've chosen to work with the layers that we believe we do best, which is discovery and monetization. And those layers specifically don't overlap with what Google Play or what iTunes do. And that enables us essentially be app store within some other app stores, and don't have any issues with that. Totally the opposite. We do help other app stores work and increase monetization on their platforms. For example, one of the biggest problems today is that although Android ecosystem is much bigger than Apple, but monetization of an average Android user is much more poor than on the iOS. So if you talk to any game developer, they will say, well, for every one user on the iPhone, I need 5 users on the Android to make the same money. Because making money is much more difficult on Android, and there is a whole set of issues. And one of the most difficult part about that is billing. As you know, billing on Apple is seamless and easy. Just put a PIN code and it works. Billing on Android is, let's put it this way, a lot of developers think that it's very complicated and difficult, and as a result, people just don't spend money as fast as they do on Apple. So what we do is we provide, for example, alternative virtual currency for Android, and if you combine Google Checkout, which is the credit card-based billing for mobile applications, and our virtual currency, then the value of the user we can bring from the Android level to iOS level. So therefore, we help the developer because you start making suddenly twice as much money on average on an Android user than used before. We definitely help ourselves because apparently we participate in the loop, and then we do help Google Play and Android ecosystem because we allow developers make more on users on that platform. So it's an illustration how, although being app stores from externally, you could really think of that as having multiple layers, and we don't have to compete on every layer. And we've selected layers that we are best at, that actually are more compatible as opposed to competitive with players like iTunes or Google Play. But there is another approach to app stores, which we have not chosen, but nevertheless it seems to be very big. I don't know if you follow the news, but one of the interesting happenings this year was acquisition of 91 Wireless in China. So it's a Chinese app store, a Chinese Android app store. And as you know, in China, Google Play does not exist because of the political issues. And what was striking about the deal, the app store, only for China, only for Android, was valued at $2 billion. So apparently that's a very huge exit for App Store. And therefore, what I'm trying to illustrate is that outside, say, the established developed worlds, there seems to exist a completely separate parallel universe where analogs of the Google Play or iTunes really can exist within the big territories, and this is the territories where those big players don't exist. So between those coexistence and existence but in different territories, this is the, say, two probably most notable trends about app stores today. Well, and this is something which actually one of my main points here on this stage is what I do observe about Eastern European startups relative to Silicon Valley startups. Typically, Silicon Valley startups do one thing at a time. That means you do one thing, you focus at one thing, you don't do anything else, and you attract external capital that allows you to focus on that one thing. And what I did in the past, and what I observe a lot of startups do in Silicon Valley here, is average startup might do like 10 projects. I do a little bit of consultancy, a little bit of project development for the government to collect some money that allows me to pay for developing my own idea. I've done that, I've seen that externally, and then that, although technically speaking, might be justified, because definitely it's good to be able to exist independently without external resources. On the other hand, I will say one simple thing: if you do 10 things, each one of the things you do 10 times weaker than if you focus on one. And if you're somebody focusing 100% on that one, what are the odds that you will beat him with 10% of your effort? Probably slim to nothing. So that's why I would change. So I would focus on a few ideas, on one idea much earlier than I did. But luckily I've learned that lesson, and right now I do one thing at a time, most of the time.